Welcome to Athlete Lives Network exclusive interviews. Today our guest is DeWitt Dino Patton, football player at Chicago Central High School, class of 1992. Dino talks about the pressures of playing in a sports-heavy background family, their amazing 10-1 season his senior season, who he considers the best players in Chicago Central history, and what he currently is doing now as a middle school football coach and an advocate for athletes to come. Check it out. Once an athlete, always an athlete. Welcome to Athlete Lives Network exclusive interviews. Today we have DeWitt Patton, better known as Dino. What's going on, Dino?
How you doing?
Today, man, we want to get a lot of questions answered from your point of view. You know, you being a guy, been involved in sports, man, you know, you can give us hopefully you give us some accurate information about just the history of football in Central. First, man, let's just kind of give us some background on who you are and growing up in the city of East Chicago and your early influences in sports.
Well, I'm DeWitt Patton. I'm currently defensive coordinator for Block Middle School. I was formerly first assistant to A.J. Rodriguez at East Chicago Central. Started playing football early. Early influences included Lawrence Bradford. Started the Street League Football League back in the late 80s, early 90s. Football has been a blessing to me. We hope we can change the attitude of the city of East Chicago. We live in a basketball city. Football is going to play second fiddle, but I was blessed to actually play for a great football team back in 1991, where we went 10-1. We were ranked number 2 in the state. We were number 1 in the area for 7 weeks. We had the number 1 ranked offense in the state. We were USA Today top 10 offense. We did a lot of great things back in those days, and I'm hoping now that my influences, me coaching middle school football in my 2 years of high school, can really do something for this city of East Chicago to bring football back the way it was.
All right. Let's kind of backtrack to when you was a child. You know, you kind of said Lawrence Bradford started the street, league, football leagues. Growing up in a family of great athletes, your grandfather Johnny Florence, Duke, Robert, Cedric, countless others. Did you feel pressured of playing sports, and did you feel pressured of being recognized as one of the great athletes?
Wow, coming up in my families, most families have certain values. My values in my family was sports. If you didn't play sports, you were the outcast. Hands down, you were an outcast. And everyone in my family played football. I mean, there's not one person I can name in my generation that didn't play the game of football. And my uncles installed that in us, by their play. We used to go watch them play at Roseville. We went up to watch them play in college. They all were All-Americans in college. My Uncle Duke was blessed to play in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs, my favorite team. And my Uncle Robert held countless records, kickoff return up at Northern Illinois also. Growing up back in the late 80s, early to late 80s, football was something that we did on the streets because we didn't have Pop Warner. So Lawrence Bradford, like I said in the beginning, started a street football league. And it was a street football league. It was a team in every community within the city. The North Harbor had their team. Roxana had a team. The South Side had a team. The North Side had a team. Calumet had a team. And West Calumet Housing Complex had a team. Our team was maybe 3rd or 4th best team in the league. We played for the championship one year against a team from the Harbor in the championship games at Washington Park, and we won that game, surprisingly. So that really sparked and really made football feel real for us because we didn't have Pop Warner. We would go see, the Hammond had the Hammond Hawks and the Shamrocks. We didn't have that. But then back in the late 80s, Pop Warner team did come to the city. They were here for about 3 years. I didn't get a chance to play because I was too big. But hey, that's Pop Warner. After that, the program fell. Football was lost for a couple of years. It wasn't until I got to high school that I started back playing football, and it was like natural. It was like something that, it's like riding a bike. You never forget to do it. And I was fortunate to actually play on a great freshman team that we only lost one game. That was the first game of the year. After that, we rolled through the rest of the season. And what made us good my senior year was because 80% of those guys that played on our freshman team all stayed together all the way up to our senior year. And I think that's what made us so great.
Being a young athlete, being a young player, who did you look up to in high school ranks as you was growing as a young athlete?
In my younger days, as a freshman, I had a lot of guys that I looked up to, but one of the guys that influenced me a lot was my cousin Dino Dinkins. He actually played football for Central. He was a senior when I was a freshman. He really helped me out as far as keeping me grounded, telling me what to do, and I'm really thankful he did that. Another guy was the guy Sasha Duochicks. He was an offensive tackle. I actually wore number 74 in honor of him. I looked up to this guy. He helped me out a lot. He went to the University of North Carolina. He was one of the top signees at Central had. That's one of the groundbreaking years of East Chicago Central. He was one of the first guys to go Division I. So he influenced me a lot. Other than that, high school wise, those was the guys that I really looked up to, and like I said, Lawrence Bradford was still around. Countless other guys. I can't even name. There's so many of them that go off the top of my head. But those guys were there that I actually could see and touch and feel. There was other guys years before who I looked up to when I went to the games, but I never could get close to them. I watched them, but that was it. But those two guys, Sasha and Donald, those two guys were there. And the coaches also was a big influence on me my early years. Coach Tom Hardiman, who now coaches at Lake Central, I top my hat off to him because he kept me. He didn't talk down to kids, and he was like a father figure to me. And I think he's the reason why our offensive line is probably one of the greatest offensive lines to play at East Chicago Central because of Tom Mikowski. And when we were there, Tom Mikowski, Sanford Span, Jermaine Wright, who passed away, and myself, and Bernie Vera. We stayed together from freshman year, sophomore year, junior, and senior year. We was together, so we were one unit. And then you throw in Condor Ransford, and then bam, there you have it. You have one of the top offensive lines that was put together. But yeah, those guys, those two guys when I was a freshman really kept my head and to let me know that I was a football player, because a lot of people don't know it. I was a basketball player all the way up to my freshman season. And after that freshman season, I got my feet wet playing football. I put the basketball down and I picked up the helmet and the shoulder pads. And that's where I've been ever since.
Okay, so after your freshman season, y'all lose one game. Now you're going into let's kind of go into your next 2 years and how you prepared as a sophomore and as a junior.
My sophomore year was a learning period for me because I had the big head coming off my freshman season because we only lost one game, and everything that we did our freshman season, a lot of guys got the big head, so a lot of us didn't work hard, but the ones that worked hard came into that next season with an open slate because Central introduced a new head coach, which was Dave Yagowski. Coach Neely was not rehired, my sophomore year. Coach Yagowski came in my sophomore year with the college frame of mind, with something that we needed. And in the future, you'll see that everything that he did. But my sophomore year was a learning season for me. I played strictly JV my sophomore year. I was a bag-up center on varsity. I got in a couple games for mop-up work, of course. Played a couple special teams, and that was it. But it was a learning experience for me. My junior year started the rebuilding of what I call my football years, because I started going to camps. Coach E started putting more time into the offensive line. Coach Hartman, like I said, great influence. I really started hitting the weights my junior year, because I didn't really do anything lifting after my freshman year, because, like I said, so much came in with the big kid. So I went in my junior year, I lifted, I got stronger, got a little bigger, and I started seeing more action on the varsity level. I actually was rotating. I was fortunate to play on that offensive line, who had 2,000-yard rushes. Alfonso Robinson being one, and Martel Ping France was the other.
That's a good point, because your junior year you guys went 4-6. With those kind of numbers, kind of tell us what went wrong into you guys not having won the season that year.
That year was a season where we had a lot of young guys in a lot of key positions. Also, there was a changing of the guard. A lot of the juniors and the sophomores were still growing, because it was a year where we had one of our toughest schedules. We had a very tough schedule that year. We played teams like Elkhart, Fort Wayne, and some of the top teams in the area, which now teams are starting to come back, like the Crown Points and the Michigan Cities. Back then, they were big football programs. Now they're down, but back then those teams were some of the powerhouses in the region. So we that year, Coach Richards came in, of course, and we had a new defensive frame of mind. He brought in this new attack style defense where he wanted everybody quick off the ball, and it was a learning process. A lot of guys, that were starters my junior year, were first-time starters. So it was a lot of learning process for a lot of those guys. The underclassmen, we had a lot of underclassmen starting, a lot of juniors and a couple of sophomores. So it really changed the learning curve as far as the players making an impact. But 4-6, it was a down year, but to us it was a winning season, because it was another win than the previous season. And you could tell the team was growing. The team was getting better and better every game. We had a couple games where we just got outplayed. The coaches had a great game plan, but the players just outplayed us. We didn't know how to win, but that season taught us that we saw how other teams put teams away, and that's what we learned how to win.